It was supposed to be a perfect night. I rented the cabin for one reason: silence. Not quiet, the kind you get with earbuds and ambient playlists. I wanted real silence, the kind that settles around you like a blanket, where the only sounds are the crackle of wood in the stove, the rain on the roof, and your own heartbeat. The listing called it Still Hollow. No neighbors for miles, no cell service, no internet. Just a triangle-shaped wooden haven tucked into the folds of an old pine forest high in the mountains. A winding gravel road led me there, my tires crunching over wet stone and the occasional stick. Mist clung to the trees, and by the time I parked, the rain had already started, slow and steady, soft enough to be romantic. The cabin was even cozier than the pictures. A lofted bed under a sharply slanted ceiling, rough-hewn beams, a tiny stove already stacked with kindling. I turned on the single lamp by the window and lit the fire. The light pooled gold against the darkening woods outside. I made tea, curled up in a blanket, and listened to the hush of rain through the pine boughs. It was peace. Finally. I spent an hour reading, maybe 2. Night settled fast, thick and velvet black outside the windows. I didn't mind. The fire was warm, and the storm outside was soft and rhythmic, hypnotic really. Around 10 p.m., I climbed the narrow ladder to the loft and slid under the heavy quilt. That's when I heard the thump. It was distant at first. A dull impact, like something heavy had landed on soft ground. Then a pause. Then another thump. I sat up, heart already beginning to race. I told myself it was a tree branch, a pine cone, a deer. The woods were full of noises, especially in the rain. But then came a third thump, closer. Then 4 rapid, uneven knocks. I froze. That wasn't a branch. That was a pattern. Human. Or something pretending to be. I slid from the bed, climbed down the ladder slowly, and turned off the lamp. The fire still cast a glow, flickering along the floorboards, but the rest of the cabin went dim. I crept to the front window and peeked through the edge of the curtain. Rain blurred the trees. Nothing moved. Still, I didn't go back upstairs. I sat on the couch, wrapped in the blanket, eyes fixed on the door, listening. It stayed quiet for almost an hour. I nearly convinced myself I'd imagined it, until the wind shifted and brought a new sound with it. Dragging. Long, slow, deliberate. Like something being pulled across wet wood. It was coming from the side of the cabin. I moved to the back window, hesitated, then pulled the curtain aside just an inch. Still nothing. I turned away, then stopped. There was a new sound, a low thrum, like a distant generator or a cello string pulled taut and vibrating below hearing. Not quite sound, more like pressure. It settled into the base of my skull, like it was humming inside my bones. The fire flickered low. The dragging circled to the back of the cabin, then stopped. A moment later, the doorknob rattled. Once, twice, then silence. I didn't breathe. The knob didn't turn again. I stayed like that, motionless, ears straining for what felt like hours. The fire died down to embers. The rain thickened. Every now and then I swore I heard the thrum again, rising in my spine like a fever. At some point, exhaustion pulled me under. I didn't mean to sleep. I just closed my eyes for a second and woke to a loud, sharp knock on the window directly above me. I screamed, fell off the couch and scrambled back, hitting the wall. My hands shook as I grabbed the fire poker and aimed it at the window. Nothing there, but there was condensation on the glass. A shape had been drawn in the fog. A spiral. It hadn't been there before. I grabbed my boots, my coat. I was done. I was leaving, rain or no rain. I bolted outside, heart slamming in my throat, and nearly slipped on the steps. That's when I saw it. Footprints. Not mine. Not boots. Bare feet. They circled the cabin. In some places, the prints dragged, like whoever had made them had been crawling or limping. I followed the trail with my eyes until they disappeared into the trees. My car was parked a few yards away, half hidden by mist. I made a run for it, slamming the door and locking it behind me. My hands fumbled the keys into the ignition. Nothing. The engine didn't even click. I tried again. Dead. I turned the headlights on. They flickered. Once. Then died. And in that flash of light, I saw something move in the trees. A shape. Tall. Still. Watching. I didn't scream. I couldn't. My breath caught in my chest, cold and solid. I sat there, trapped in silence, until I was sure it was gone. Then I ran back inside. The spiral on the window was gone. The fire was out. The stove door hung open. And something had been dragged across the floor. Not far. Just a few feet. But there was a wet trail, like something slick had slithered inside and retreated. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I sat with my back to the wall, clutching the fire poker, eyes on the door, waiting for the thrum to return. It did, just before dawn. Faint, slow, like it was beneath the cabin this time. And along with it, whispering, words I couldn't understand. High and low voices, weaving together in tones that felt wrong. I waited until the sun finally broke through the trees and the whispers faded. Then I ran. I didn't pack. I didn't lock the door. I sprinted down the gravel road, soaked and breathless, until I found a ranger truck on the main road 2 miles down. The man driving didn't say anything when I told him what happened, just nodded slowly. When I asked him about Still Hollow, he looked away and said, "You stayed there alone?" I nodded. He said, "We stopped renting that place years ago." I asked why. His voice was quiet. People came back different, or they didn't come back at all. I asked what he meant. He looked at me, and for a long moment said nothing. Then he said, "They all mentioned the same thing. A sound." I swallowed. "A thrum?" His jaw tightened. Then he turned the radio on and didn't say another word for the rest of the drive. I still hear it sometimes. When the rain comes heavy and the wind moves just right through the trees, I feel it start again, deep in my spine. The low, bone-deep thrum. And when I do, I shut every window, because I know it remembers me, and it's still out there, waiting.